prioritization is to arrange items to be attended to in order of their relative importance. To give priority or to establish as a prioritization, and it's a noun, right? Now check this out. It says to arrange, right? So this is actually going to take some physical ability to do this, right? And then it says in order of relative importance. Now this is just not rearranging things in what you like it to be, but this is now arranging things into what is actually really important. We got to give the priority to certain things above certain other things. I want to read you guys a quote about prioritizing. And Jamie Munson said, "It's not an issue of wants versus needs. It's an issue of wants versus priorities." Another quote is, "Priorities will tell you everything you need to know about a person."
Come on.
Turn with us to Luke chapter 10.
Come on, bro.
Preach, bro. Come on, Zach.
In Luke 10, verse 38, we're going to read about a story exactly about prioritizing. It says, as Jesus' disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had called her sister Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken from her."
Come on, man.
This is an amazing story. Jesus, you have Martha who's pretty bold, right? Literally comes up to Jesus with a confrontation and says, "Tell my sister to help me." Demand something of Jesus.
Wow.
And even calls him out, it's like, "Don't you even care?" But Jesus says, your sister has chosen what is better. So now we see that it was a difference between good, better, and best. Amen? Mary chose what is right. And what she really chose, what was Jesus. Now, I gotta ask you a question. Do you determine your priorities? Or do you let God determine your priorities?
Come on.
I think what we gotta understand something. We're disciples, amen, right?
Amen.
But we gotta really put on a great, not even a show. It's not because of show, because we're faking it. But we gotta put on a good reputation to the world.
Yeah.
And if I am confident that if you do not prioritize, you will not be a forceful man or woman of God. You'll never get things done in the timely order that they need to get done. And you'll be sporadic of getting things done. And you'll be known as unreliable. I can even confidently say that if you don't prioritize, you will fall away. If you don't prioritize, you'll fall away.
Yeah.
Think about it. If you don't, Satan's coming after you.
Yeah.
So this is what I want you guys, and this is, if not your priorities, I'm going to tell you guys, this should be your first priorities as a disciple. God and the kingdom and righteousness.
Yeah.
Nothing goes above those first. Those are your absolute number one priorities. Now, what are some practicals? If we're supposed to live a godly life, how do we do this? You got to line up everything that you have going on to God, the kingdom, and righteousness. You got to think is, okay, do I have God in mind when I'm planning out my day? Did I make time to share? Do I have time to do the things that my Bible Talk leaders are asking me to do? You got to think about, too, about the kingdom. You know, if I choose to do this, am I going to be late to the meeting of the body? If I do this, am I actually even planning something over the meetings of the body? Also, too, if you plan something, prioritize something, you even got to ask yourself, is it even righteous of what you're planning to do? I think you got to get your list of what you got going on each day. And actually think about, okay, what should be on my list? This is the other thing. Quiet times should never be a question. They're always a priority.
Yeah.
And they're even, too, something I've failed at, is that quiet time should be at the top of every morning. Why do I know this? I got a couple examples of why. But for me, I struggled when I didn't have my quiet times in the morning. I didn't put God first. I didn't have that in mind. But I'm going to let Liz share about her experiences.
Come on.
So we're going to talk about prioritization, and I think as women we can be two ways. We can be like Martha, or we can be like Mary.
Yeah.
And so honestly, like we're both at the core of our being. We can be both. So we can be like Martha, and honestly, I talked to Leanne about this a while ago when she was sharing with me about her reading Mary Hart in A Martha World. And what really struck a chord with me was something that she said, is that as women we can prioritize what is urgent over what is most important. And so Martha was looking at the things that were urgent. Oh my gosh, I need to feed these 12 men who are in my house. Oh my goodness. I mean, honestly, I'm sure Mary's felt that way. She's like, all of a sudden, all of these people are in my house and I need to feed them. And so, like, it's kind of crazy. So she was prioritizing what was urgent over what was most important. And so commenting on what Nate was saying is that a lot of the times we can put what's urgent, oh my gosh, I'm going to be late for work. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be late for class. God, I can't have my quiet time right now because this sister's calling me on the phone and she's about to fall away. Or, God, I can't go to sleep right now because this sister's calling me and she needs help. You are not Jesus. They will live. It will be okay. You have to prioritize your relationship with God, and sometimes that means letting the phone go on silent, having your quiet time, or having that prayer, going to sleep, and getting back to them in the morning. And because honestly, guys, we're not Jesus. They have to rely on God. And a lot of the times we'll put what's urgent in our ministries, what's urgent in our life, what's urgent in our work schedule, what's urgent in our classes, over our relationship with God. We can be like Martha. And for me, practicals is trusting in God that everything will be okay. Trusting in God that I'm going to get to work on time. Trusting in God that He will help that sister with whatever she's going through, or that brother. Trusting in God that whatever situation, whatever ride that needs to happen, or whatever obstacle is in the way was planned by God, and He'll work it out. And something I remember from A Knight's Tale, it's really funny, but is that God stopped the sun and He stopped time for Joshua so he could defeat his enemies. He literally stopped the day and made it longer. And God will do the same thing for you. And the other thing we can be like is Mary. So Mary, she was really, she was really spiritual. You know, she sought first God. But honestly, we can seek first God and let our priorities fall to the side. And so I'm guilty of this a lot of the times. Well, I mean, like, we pretend to seek first God. We're thinking it's seeking first God. But let our priorities fall to the side. A good example I have is I'm an administrator. I count the money for church, and that's really important. And so one day we had a beach service, and I didn't want to count the money right after service because, obviously, like, we're in a park, we're at Eva Beach, and there's a whole bunch of people around. People see me counting money in my car. That's a lot of money. And honestly, they could just break into my car, steal it, and it would be gone. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that. And then, but instead of making it a priority to get it done that night, or even communicating to the sister who was going to help me count, I didn't do that. I didn't make sure. I wasn't like Martha in making sure that the thing that was urgent needed to get done. And so the next day, I counted it, and honestly, it caused a huge chaos in everybody's life. Mark and Carrie got their contribution report late. They have to report to Kip. And Kip wanted to know. He has all these region leaders who are asking them, where's your contribution report? And I stressed out that sister because she didn't know. And she had to rush over and move all her plans to help me count the money. And so, I was trying to do what was wise. I wanted to fellowship. I wanted to do all these different things, but I put fellowship above my priorities. And so, in a sense, we can do that. And that's not putting God first, that's putting our emotions first and what we want. And that's another temptation that we can have. We can be like Mary and put our emotions first instead of putting getting things done and actually completing what we need to do. And so I have one definition for you, and it's honor. And so honor is the fulfilling of obligations and keeping arrangements. And so something I lacked in that situation was honor. And that's not something we think of. We think of Mulan. We think of like dishonor on your family, or we think of fighting a lot of the times. We think that battle is what's honorable, but it's not. It's keeping our arrangements and keeping our vows to God. So it's both. We have to have both.
So guys, with that, let's have a mindset of how to really prioritize with God in mind. Amen?
Amen.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Come
on. Thank you guys. Thank you, Liz and Nate, for sharing.
Come
Come on,
That
dude.
was definitely awesome. I love you guys for arrangement, right? Make the right arrangement. It's very important. So what my wife Gina and I was about is planning. And I have a little small story I want to share with you guys.
Nice.
Come on, bro.
So little small story. So in this one pond, there was 3 fishes. But that's not the right to say it. 3 fish, right? There's no fishes.
There were 3 fish.
There was 3 fish. English,
Come on,
man.
bro. Yeah, guys.
It's complicated. So 3 fish. One is named Plan Ahead, another named Think Fast, and another named Wait and See. So one day they got this report that a fisherman is gonna come and fish at their pond the next day. So Plan Ahead was like, you know what? I gotta plan ahead and swim up the river. Think Fast was like, when it comes, I'll think about it. And Wait and See was like, I'm too lazy right now. So when it comes, it'll come. So as you know, the next day, the fisherman caught the Think Fast and the Wait and See. So Think Fast was like, my goodness, I should better pretend I'm dead. So it's like dead, we see him dead. Then, go toss it back. Wait and See was like, I'll wait and see what he'll do to me. The fisherman, happily go home. And when he opened the fish bracket, he saw the Think Fast fish dead. He was like, it was just fresh. And now it's dead. Let's have my wife cook it up. So Think Fast got cooked up. And Wait and See was like, I'll wait and see what he'll do to me. And so the fisherman was like, I could share this fish in the market. So as you see, Wait and See got sold in the market. So the moral of the story? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. Plan ahead, think fast, or wait and see. So now, which fish do you see you are? Which one? Because, let me make it even easier to understand. Which fish do I think I am? It's really easy. So think fast. If this is your train of thought, when a task is given to you, and you're like, this is too easy. I could pull it up last minute. This task is too easy. This one works. It's a breeze. 1 + 1 = 3. I know that already. Wait until the homework comes and I'm finished. So that's think fast, right? And wait and see is like another excuse. You're like, you know what? The older I get, the wiser I'll be. This task needs a lot of wisdom. So wait till next week. We are so good at excuses, But so how can we avoid either? How can we become the plan ahead guy? Let's go with me to Isaiah chapter 32.
Come on, Dad.
Come on, Dad.
What did?
Isaiah chapter 32, verse 8. The Bible says, but the noble make noble plans, and by noble deeds they stand.
Wow.
So it's saying, the noble make noble plans. So what does noble mean? As we all know, when we do the seeking God study, noble means advance, right? And what does advance mean? It's very simple. I think it's self-explanatory. Advance means far on or ahead in development or progress. So, are you a person with advanced plan? Are you an advanced person? Are you an advanced disciple of God? or you just wait till last minute and wing it. So my wife would she would explain more about how to do planning. But for me, one of the good things that I usually practice is whenever a task is given to me, right, whether by other people or life circumstances, I would give myself like 5 or 10 seconds. So sometimes you guys will see me like spaced out. When you guys ask to do something, I'm thinking, I'm planning in my mind. Anyway, so I was like, okay, how long would the task take? Is it gonna take me like 6 seconds to finish? If it's 6 seconds, I just pull my phone up, finish it, done. If it was like a minute, I was like, so pull it out, done. Or if it take like half a day, then I'll start to look into okay, which half a day I have in my schedule, and I'll plug that in. So that's my rule of thumb. If it could be done quick, I'll get it done right away, so I don't have to worry about it. But if it take a long time, then I'll move it accordingly to my schedule. And so, but some of you guys here are so spiritual. You ask, but Ted, what's the problem with planning? God would change everything anyways. If I plan, then God break it down and then plan again. That's too much work.
That's too much work.
You know what? I'm not that spiritual to answer that spiritual questions. I have somebody else more spiritual than me to answer that question. So I'll have my beautiful wife answer that question for you guys.
Come on, Jane.
Okay. I swear, every time I hear Ted speak, I laugh so much my jaw, my cheeks start hurting. Okay, I have a scripture to share with you, ladies. Proverbs 21, verse 5. We can turn there.
Come on, sis.
So I'm going to read the Message version. And it says, careful planning puts you ahead in the long run. Hurry and scurry puts you further behind. So I have a question for you ladies. Are you a woman who plans ahead, or are you always in a hurry and a scurry? Do you take the time to plan and to pray through your plans to God? Or do you make up the excuse, God's got it, I don't need to do anything about it? God knows the plans he has for you, correct? Jeremiah 29.
Yeah.
But he expects excellence out of his daughters.
Yeah.
Turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 8.
Come on, Jane.
And in verse 7, it says, but since you excel in everything, are you, sisters, excelling in planning ahead for God? Planning helps you to prioritize God and his kingdom first, while not letting you forget your other duties as well. Planning is an essential component to an excellent character. Do you guys know of Esther? Esther is my favorite woman in the Bible. Because of her careful planning, she fasted, she prayed, and guess what? She saved her people.
Come on.
Daniel. Who loves Daniel? I love Daniel. Daniel had a plan. He ate well, he took care of himself, and he was one of the king's favorites.
Yeah.
Jesus. Who doesn't love Jesus, right? Jesus had a plan to evangelize the world. And guess what? It's happening till today. Do you have a plan? Do you have a plan for your day, a plan for the week ahead, or even just a plan for the months, your life, your goals? Just a quick story I want to share about our wedding. Any of you sisters here want to get married? Good temperature check. They were taking their 5 seconds to think, right?
Everybody just became
I'm sure the sisters in the house want to get married, right? One makes an amazing brother. What do you think will happen? Let's say that wedding day, it's gonna happen, my amazing brother just proposed to me and it's gonna happen. My wedding day is the kingdom moves fast. It's 3 months ahead. I don't need a plan for it.
Oh no.
The day comes, what do you think your wedding's gonna be like? Nobody gonna show up except you guys. You guys aren't gonna get married, right? But imagine what it takes when you have careful planning, right? You're gonna have a beautiful wedding. And it's the same, for us, planning our wedding I thought it was gonna be fun. It was so hectic. But I couldn't do it without the help of my sisters. I really could not do it without the help of my sisters, the bridesmaids, like, you know, the spiritual leaders in my life, like the older married couples. So it goes to show you need other people to help you. You need people to guide you. You need a group effort. And so the quality of your wedding day, right? It'll depend on the type of planning you put. It's the same thing with your life. The quality of the plans that you have for your life, how like Nate and Liz shared, the way you prioritize God and His kingdom first, and you get your duties done, and you maintain excellent character, that will literally show the quality of your life. If you have poor planning, you're one of those think fast, dead fish in the market type person, that's going to be the quality of your life that other people will see. And I do not think they want to be a dead fish. So a couple practicals. And all your planning, please remember Proverbs 16:3. If we can turn to that last scripture there.
Come on, Jane.
And Proverbs 16:3 says, "Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your plans."
Okay.
So plan before the start of the week. Pick a day before the week, a time. Block that out. Sit down. I guess married, so you can plan with your husbands and wives together, or Bible talk leaders, maybe you guys can plan things together, or just for yourselves, just plan ahead. And then most importantly, give it to God. Pray over your plans for the week. Share them with your discipler, you know, so that you guys are never out of sync. You know, the worst is like when you don't know what's going on with each other, you know, especially if you guys are working together. So share your plans with your discipler. And most importantly, stay disciplined. Drew up the plan. It's not going to mean anything unless you do it.
Yeah.
And then you're going to see all the prosperity and blessings that God will bring.
Awesome. So yeah, with that, guys, I hope you guys could, very important, even us learning it too, is to become the planet head fish, not the think fast and wait and see fish. So so now we're gonna have an even more awesome speakers coming out to teach us, the veterans of the faith. Please, guys, welcome Joe and Mary Santos.
Big Joe.
As we limp over the podium.
Come on, Joe.
Amen.
That's right, Joe. You still young.
Amen. Amen. All right, it's good to be here. Amongst you young folks, see, I need this right here, right? It's a magnifier. You know what I mean? Cool. Let's read it. Okay. Amen. But it's good to see you guys, and thank Jane and Ted and Jane for asking us to speak on the topic of preparedness versus procrastination. This is perfect topic for us because Mary's preparedness and I'm procrastination.
Okay.
Totally. Totally procrastination. So what not to do. But we wanted to share out of the life of Daniel tonight, and the title of our charge is. Let me see here. Prepare a life worthy of God's service. That's basically why we're disciples, is to serve God. And our purpose is to do God's will. Amen?
Amen.
And so the first point I wanted to make is excellence from the beginning to end. So let's turn to Daniel chapter 1. And starting in verse 3, magnifier.
Come on.
Then the king ordered Ashpenaz, chief of the court officials, to bring in some of the Israelites from the royal family and the nobility. Young man without any physical defect, handsome, showing aptitude for every kind of learning, well-informed, quick to understand, and qualified to serve in the king's palace. He was to teach them the language and literature of the Babylonians. The king assigned them a daily amount of food and wine from the king's table. They were to be trained for 3 years, and after that, they were to enter the king's service. We want to stop right there. So, it's interesting that here, the king of Nebuchadnezzar went into Jerusalem and Israel and conquered and enslaved the people of Jerusalem, God's people. And then from the people, they took, earlier they took they carried off all the temple treasures and took it to Babylon. And also they took, right here, he wanted the best of the best, right, in Jerusalem. And they were from the royal family and the nobility. And, they seemed like they stood out. I was thinking about that, and how does that apply to us? I think Jane or Ted just mentioned about having noble character. And as disciples, we're called to have noble character. So we are nobility, amen, in the kingdom. Because we were not of noble character in the past when we were in the world. But when we became disciples, we were called to have noble character. So God is calling us to serve Him, right? Because we are of that noble character. I don't know if anyone is from a royal family here. I'm not. But we can say we have noble character as disciples. Amen? So we see here that he was chosen, right? It talks about right here, for 3 years he was going to be learning the literature and the Babylonians. So that's kind of like the amount of schooling that most of us go through, 3-4 years.
Okay.
Right? So he's right here, we can see that he's a campus student, right?
Oh, okay.
He's studying for 3 years.
Yeah.
So that he can go out and serve the king after he's done. So right here, he's a campus student. Right? He's studying, and so that he can serve the king. And many of us, we study and we can go out and make a living. And, so we see here that that's where he was at. He was, I don't know how old he was, but he was young, and it says he was young and he was handsome.
Strapping.
Yeah, kind of like.
Kind of like Joe.
I wanted to get married, so.
Come on, Abby.
Amen. So, yeah, kind of like Lavelle right there, handsome. Yeah, amen. Get back at me. But yeah, so we're called to really serve God. When we're disciples, we're going to be serving God. But how prepared are you to serve God? So things like this really help us to be able to be prepared to serve in God's kingdom, in whatever capacity that is. We are to serve. Amen? Let's go to verse 8.
Come on, bro. Come on, Papa.
In verse 8, it shows a life of discipline.
Yes.
Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine, and he asked the chief official for permission not to defile himself in this way. Now God had caused the official to show favor and sympathy to Daniel, but the official told Daniel, I am afraid of my lord the king, who has assigned you your food and drink. Why should he see you looking worse than the other young man your age? The king would have my head because of you. Okay, man. That's pretty scary. Daniel then said to the guard, whom the chief official had appointed over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, please test your servants. For 10 days, give us nothing but vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then compare our appearance with that of young men who ate the royal food, and treat your servants in accordance with what you see. So he agreed to this and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, they looked healthier, better nourished than any of the young men who ate the royal food. So the guard looked away, took away their choice food and the wine they were to drink, and gave them vegetables instead. Now, this is, it takes, for us, diet is one of the hugest industry in America or in the world.
Yeah.
Right? It's $1 billion industry because people, they fluctuate. I mean, they're indisciplined maybe, or whatever it may be. Here we see Daniel was resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine. Now, back in those days, the royal families, because they ate such unhealthy, but it tastes really good, right? And they died early. They would die young of various diseases, and they didn't have the hospitals, the Queen's Hospital, anything like that. But that was the problem, and I think Daniel knew that. But he knew that eating vegetables would be even beneficial for him. But I'm just thinking about the other brothers. You know, they're like, "Come on, Daniel, that steak is pretty good, man." You know what I mean? Those brothers may be like, "Man, come on, man. You know, we're gonna have to like seriously sacrifice and deny ourselves."
Yeah.
You know, but Daniel had a plan.
Yeah.
He had a plan. But the thing that I try to relate this scripture to us is that if today many things defile us. Daniel at that time he realized that defiled it. But today many things defile us. You know, what we see on TV defiles us. In the movies, maybe music you listen to. What we wear can defile us. What we say or what we hear can defile us. What type of attitude you have can defile us. But the question is, are you resolved not to defile yourselves today?
Come on, bro.
I mean, we have to have, as a church, deep convictions about not getting defiled by the world.
Yeah.
Come on, Joe.
When we defile ourselves with sin or with whatever comes into us that negatively affects us, we are no longer effective in doing God's will or being in His service. I mean, it's easy, right? When you're in sin, you're super ineffective.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've been there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I'm in sin, I don't want to share my faith with somebody else
Nope.
Yeah.
Come on.
because I'm defiled, right?
Yeah.
And so you become ineffective,
Wow.
unprepared to be in God's service. So, you know, what should we do? We should repent, confess our sins to God for forgiveness, and confess our sins to one another so we can be healed. Amen?
Yeah.
And then we move on
Yep.
and do God's work.
Amen.
You know, what's interesting here is, even though the king destroyed and conquered Daniel's people in Jerusalem, Daniel still wanted to be the best for him.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Did you see that? He wanted to still be the best. I mean, he's like, man, this king, I'm going to still be the best for him. Because his king is Christ. His king is God.
Amen.
You know what I mean? He didn't get caught up in, well, this is an evil king. This king has destroyed my family and my people. But no, he said, I wanted to be the healthiest. So he chose, you know, a diet that would help him serve this king even more, even though that guy could be evil. How can we relate that to our lives today? Maybe you have a terrible boss at your workplace.
Oh, snap.
Maybe your boss is terrible. And then you don't want to work hard for your boss. You're not being like Daniel. You're not being disciplined like that. You know, as disciples, we got to be the best for God.
Come on, bro.
Right? We got to be an example.
Amen.
Maybe you have a terrible teacher
Oh, come on, bro.
that is just boring or just terrible. He's just-
Come on, bro.
He's like, I don't
Bro.
know, but maybe as
Come
a
on,
student,
man.
your teacher is just, I don't know, you don't like
That's
him.
right, bro. I don't know.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
You know, but you are defiled. But you're not excellent for your teacher. You're not excellent, doing great jobs in your class.
Come on.
See, we got to be like Daniel. In spite of whoever's overseeing us, we got to still be excellent
Come on.
because it's about serving God. Amen.
Amen.
Come on, bro.
I want to look at Colossians chapter 3.
Come on, Papa Joe.
Colossians chapter 3, verse 23.
Preach it.
Amen. Okay, here, this is a great scripture. It's convicting, especially for us when we have a terrible teacher or a terrible employer. Verse 23. It says, slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything and do it, not only when their eyes is on you and to win their favor, but with sincerity of heart and reverence for the Lord. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord and not men. And this is crazy because he's telling the slaves this. And slaves back in those days used to get whooped. Used to be treated like dirt. And he's telling the slaves, the dude that's whipping you, obey them like you're obeying Christ. Wow. None of us are slaves here. But if you put yourself in their shoes, then somebody, and here Paul is telling them, hey, you got to still do a great job. You got to still honor them as if you're working for Christ and not men. Because you could look at them, and you got to have to look at Christ, ahead of them, instead of looking at them and being critical of them or upset at them. And you won't even, it affects the way you work. It affects the way you are around them or around other people. You always got to look at Christ because that's who we're working for. We must be excellent for Christ. Amen? Yeah. Amen. Let's go to 17 and back to Daniel.
Come on, bro.
This is awesome. This thing. Okay. This is great.
If you find it missing, Sarah, you know what's in his pocket.
The whole thing is going.
Parents will be like,
I can't read it.
He's the thief.
Verse 17. To those 4 men God gave knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning, and Daniel could understand visions and dreams of all kinds. At the end of the time set by the king to bring them in, the chief official presented them to Nebuchadnezzar. The king talked with them, and he found none equal to Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the king's service. In every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king questioned them, they found them 10 times better than any magicians and enchanters in his whole kingdom. And Daniel remained there until the first year of King Cyrus. Wow. So here we see that the end of they got their degree here. They're done with the 3 years of learning. And then the king tested them, the knowledge of the Babylonians. And they tested 10 times better, right, than anybody in the whole kingdom. 10 times better. Like, they were excellent in what they did, in their studies. They were excellent. I mean, they're not from Babylon. They're not from there. They're from another country, but they did better than anybody that may be from that country, right? But how about you in your school? Are you 10 times better than people in your class?
Oh, man.
Come on, bro.
Wow. That's a higher calling. I mean, amen. I mean, I can, come on, campus. But that's a question that I gotta ask. Wow. Are you that excellent that you're 10 times better than everybody in your class?
Come on, coworkers.
Maybe you're not as, there's some people that are more intelligent than other people.
Yeah.
But do you work 10 times harder to get as good as them? I mean, that's a good number, 10 times. Because God will bless you 10 times over, amen? But the 10 times is a convicting number to challenge us at how excellent we are to do the things that we do. How excellent are we in our school and our work. Here at the end, Daniel actually served 4 different kings into his 80s and 90s. But the question I have for us as students, what are your kingdom dreams? Does your dream for the kingdom match what you're taking as a major? Will the degree you have help in the service of God in his kingdom? You see, Daniel was learning the stuff that he needed to know so that he could better serve the king. right? So I've heard this before when we had Hope Worldwide back in the day in the old Church and Kingdom. So we would study medicine. People would study medicine just to get to go to serve at Hope. In Cambodia. Now we have a church in Cambodia. I'm fired up about that. But I think the thing that we ought to, as students and as singles, are our kingdom goals, right? Our kingdom goals aligned with what we're doing as a major? Because sometimes, man, we can study for 4 years and come out of it and want to go into the ministry, but we didn't study for 4 years, so it equipped us to go into the ministry.
Amen.
So we have to think kingdom dreams, right, for our lives as young people.
Yeah.
And we have to transfer these questions to the next campus ministry,
Yeah.
so that what we study in school will benefit the kingdom.
Come on.
So it's not out there just floating, but it's used after you're done with college.
Yeah.
My beautiful wife will speak.
Thank you. You
Mary.
know, I look at Daniel and I see an excellent student and a single working professional after that.
Oh.
And his work excellence, work ethics, and work energy spanned 4 kingdoms. It's incredible what Joe was mentioning. And a lot of it is if you want to study out excellence, Daniel is one of the most incredible men to study out.
Yeah.
I have a few verses that you can look at to study out excellence. I'm not going to turn to it, I'm just going to mention it. Philippians 4:8. Also Philippians chapter 1, verse 9 through 10. Titus 2:7. I'm trying to go steadily.
Come on, Mary.
2 Corinthians 8:7. The other part of Colossians that Joe read, chapter 3, he addresses slaves again in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 7 through 8. And then Joshua 1:8. These are just a tidbit. There's so many verses on excellence. But, you know, the title was excellence for this point was excellence from beginning to end. How do you begin your day? We're going to watch a video later on after we're done. But the first thing I'd like to challenge all of you
Come on,
is
Mary.
make your bed.
Great.
Amen.
Make your bed in the morning. There's going to be an eloquent speaker that's going to come on about the importance of how making a bed can change the world.
Amen.
Make your bed. Ever since I was a child, I don't know why, but for some reason in my head, because I'm a pretty orderly person, I always make my bed. If there was a time where I didn't make my bed, then my day was messed up. What's so funny is in college, I was a glass blower.
Come on.
I got my degree in fine arts, and all the glass blowers were talking about how lazy we were. And I piped up, yeah, I'm so lazy, I have to have my bed made, so what I do is I sleep on my bed made. So all I have to do is roll out of it, just roll like this, and it looks nice, but I feel good, it's made, I didn't go through all the work. And the professor's listening to us, and he's busting out laughing, like this is so ridiculous, like, just sleep in your bed and make it. But I'm like, no, I have to have my bed made, so I just sleep on my made bed and just get the wrinkles and the creases out. Anyway, so we're all laughing. But make your bed. Start your day with your quiet times. Very important. And then as you go throughout your day, knowing what your schedule is and your budget. Can you pass me that book behind you? 3 green binder. It's a small one. Okay. This is starting from 1992. A record of all the lessons until 1998.
Wow.
So these are not just the calendar. These are just specific Wednesdays, Friday devos, Sunday. But I'm looking at it, and it's so cool. I have listed down the schedule, and Kaiser is in there.
Wow.
In 1993, when I was studying the Bible with her, and I had all of it scheduled out how I was going to convert Kaiser. And so this is the heart that you have to have for people, is really scheduling them, knowing the men, but mainly I'm talking the sisters, but the sisters in your lives, and knowing what's going on with their lives as well, non-Christian and disciples, both. You need to be scheduled and budgeted. I even have my budget in there. $5 for this, $2 for gas for the sister who drove me home. Like, I would really budget myself. And I was very on it. I made $3.83 an hour.
Yes, she did.
I got an increase eventually of $5.65 an hour. And I was able to live in a sister's household, get my master's degree without any help from my parents.
Come on.
And I have no debt.
All right.
No debt. So you have to be really, really on it. For the college students, I want to challenge you on your GPA.
Yep.
I took an academic excellence class that was led by Brock and Ann Roby, who were the couple that planted the church here originally. And Ann Roby was summa cum laude of Princeton.
Wow.
She was the valedictorian of Princeton for her graduating class. Her husband also graduated from Princeton, and then Brock later on went to get his master's degree in civil engineering from Stanford. So they led our church, right? They did an academics excellence class. We all showed up, and we learned a lot. One thing we learned as a college ministry, as a campus ministry, was we had to hold each other accountable about our GPAs and have that much conviction that you ask one another, or talk to your disciple, or your discipler needs to ask you. So Janelle and Rico are not here. I don't know what they were like in school, but maybe you can let Janelle and Rico know, hey, can you make sure you hold me accountable about my GPA?
Come on.
Disciples should not get anything lower than a C. I was so convicted by the academic excellence of devotional. I still remember it. It was in 1990. I was so convicted that by the time I graduated 4 years later, I had a GPA of 3.5. And that 3.5 allowed me to go after my master's degree immediately. I set up an interview with the director of Pacific Island Studies at the University of Hawaii, Manoa. And he goes, I've never had a student interview me. And I said, well, no, I'm trying to understand, and I want to get into this. I'm trying to figure out my life, and what you tell me now will determine a lot of things. Now, prior to that, I felt kind of undecided. Do I stay in the campus ministry, even though I've already graduated, because I'm going to try to go after my master's, or do I go into singles? I couldn't figure out. So, that question that Ted had about what happens when you don't know what to do, or I forget, getting clapped. Well, what changed me was an example of once, you can't do much with a stalled car, right? It's really hard to turn the wheel with a car that's at a stop. Really hard. But if you get that stalled car just even moving a little bit, all of a sudden you can turn the wheel. Mm-hmm. Well, that's what we are to God. Sometimes we're stalled vehicles, and it's so hard. God's like, you're like, what do I do, God? What do I do? God's like this. I'm trying to turn your wheel, you're not budging, you're just stalling there, And so all God needs you to do, all that God needs you to do, thank you, is just move forward. So I made a decision, you know what? I'm going to interview the director of Pacific Island Studies and see if I can get in there. And after the interview, he looked at me and he goes, you know what? Just take these 2 classes during summer. I'm going to put you in the master's program. He goes, not only that, I'm going to give you a tuition waiver. And I said, well, what's that? He goes, you will get your entire master's degree for free. Wow. I was like, that's awesome. Wow, God answered my prayer and answered my no longer being stalled in my decisions. I just went for it, and God gave me the answer. So I really am so grateful. But for college students, know your GPA, hold each other accountable. It's very important. Fellowship, guys, is important. For the woman that impacted me, Michelle Meechan, she was disciplined.
Amen.
So at 9 p.m., even if the service ended at 8:45 or 8:55 p.m., she was a fellowship monger for 5 minutes. Go around hugging everybody, and then, bewitching hour, time to go, it's 9 p.m. Bye, everybody. And all of us are like, oh, Michelle, you're like, she's so disciplined. Like, honestly, we would kind of look down at her like,
Oh, Michelle.
oh, come on, Michelle. But she would leave, and you know what? She'd go to sleep at 10 p.m. every night. And the reason why I know that, because I would sleep in her dorm, and I'd go like this, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boop. It was unbelievable. She was so disciplined. One day, I think it was in 1992 or 93, Brock goes, who here, and back then it was a lot about personal fruit, the person you met, whether it was male or female, and even though someone else studied the Bible with the person that you met, they didn't, anyway, it was kind of a competition thing and selfish ambition. But he had everyone here who was impacted by Michelle Meachin, like she personally invited you, please stand on up. 25%
Wow,
of the
come on.
room stood up because of Michelle Meachin.
Wow.
She was very disciplined, and yet she met so many people and converted so many people. Men and women stood up, 25%. Incredible impact, all because of her excellence. And for the single professionals, I just want to say one thing. You should never, ever get fired
Oh, there it is.
unless it's to serve Christ better.
Oh,
And that, you know, the apostles, they went to prison, but it was because of for their cause for Christ.
Yeah.
You should never get fired. You should be so good at what you do that you go, okay, now it's time for me to move on. And the employers are like, please, don't go. What church do you go to? Because I got to find more people with your character. You're so awesome. That's the way it should be. You should never, ever get fired because of inexcellence. So I want to challenge the
Brandon.
single professionals for that. Amen.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay, we're gonna close it out here.
Crank it.
Proverbs 29. So the second point that I want to make is finishing is better than starting. Anybody can start anything, but not everybody can finish. Right? So finishing is better than starting. Sorry, turn to John 4:34. Sorry. We'll go there the next. John 4:34 first.
Remember.
John 4:34. This is Jesus talking here. Yes, about Jesus. Okay, good. Forgot mine. Okay. My food, said Jesus, is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work. Jesus was about finishing what he started. Right? And that's what we have to be. We have to be finishers. You know, a little bit about myself. Actually, we'll go to Proverbs and then I'll share. Proverbs 29.
Go on, Joe.
Jojo.
Awesome stuff.
Proverbs 29. Here it is. Where there is no revelation, the people cast off restraint. Okay, I just want to stop right there. And in the King James, what's the version?
Without vision.
Without vision, people perish. Right? So we ought to have vision. What's the big picture? What do we want to do? Right? And when you get that vision, you have direction on what you want to do. And then you have to set some goals to accomplish those things. Right? You know, I was playing football at San Diego State University.
Come on.
And then after football, I played rugby. Most of you guys know that.
Come on, bro.
But before I played the rugby, I never played rugby, right? So it was brand new to me. But I knew what I wanted, right? So the big vision was to represent the United States of America. That's like the top deal, right? And so then I thought about how do I accomplish that goal. So there was a team in the city that was one of the better teams in the country, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna play for that team, and in my first year, there's 4 different teams you have to go through. There's the 4th team, the 3rd team, the 2nd, and then the 1st team. So I said I'm gonna play for the 1st team on my first year of ever playing rugby, which is kind of crazy because they were really good. Most of those guys played for the United States team. And so I thought I'll just accomplish that. And so anyway, so I wrote down in my paper that I'm going to play for that team. I'm going to start for that team. And then after my 2nd year, I'll be the MVP of a national tournament. And after that, then I'm gonna play. Then they're gonna select me, and I'm gonna play for my country. Now I've never played rugby. I was just setting some goals and the vision. And I just went on and did what I had to do. I mean, I worked out. I wrote out my workouts, and then I went to practice. I was lost, but I had to learn real fast. There was actually a guy that was playing the position that I was going to play, which is the wing, which is the outside fast guy. So this guy pulls me over. He goes, "Hey man, I'll help you out." So this guy played the same position as I would wanted to play. So this guy's on the national team at the moment, right? So anyway, so he pulls me aside. He's teaching me this. By the end of the year, I take his position.
Oh snap!
On the team I played with. We were in the national championship. And so this guy now, he's second string, and I'm first string. So I accomplished that first goal, right? So the second year, I was on the first team, and we get to travel, and then we went to the championship game in Chicago, and I won the MVP of the national tournament.
Oh, come on.
Right? All of a sudden, see, I did not know I was accomplishing my goals, but I was accomplishing it because I wrote it down. I thought about it, I wrote it down. And this was, I didn't even pray about it. I was just thinking through it, yeah? So then I get this thing, and I didn't even get an invitation after I won the MVP. We won the national tournament, and I won the MVP. And then I didn't get invited, so I was like, okay, I was just going to leave and go to Australia and play rugby there. Wow. So anyway, the coach hears of it. He invites me to camp in Toronto. So he goes, I'm inviting you just as a favor to your coach, the national team coach. He invited me. And you're going to play against Cat. You're not going to play. You're just going to come and practice, just a favor for your coach. So I said, okay, coach, thank you. I'll take that opportunity. So he goes up there. He says, yeah, you're like fourth string. You're not even going to see the fit. So my attitude was, okay, I'm just going to make them select me, even if they don't want to select me, right? So I did what I had to do to be the fastest, the strongest guy out there. At the end of the camp, they chose me to play against Canada. They had no choice. I was fifth string, then I went all the way to first string.
Wow.
Right? Within like a 2-week period of training camp. And I was the fastest, strongest. I was just working hard. And then I made the national team. And then one other goal that I had was to go and play professionally in New Zealand. And right when I was in the national team, a guy invited me to go play in New Zealand for this provincial team. Wow. And he took care of everything, paid me and gave me everything. And then I looked back at it, I didn't even see the list till after. Then that list came out, and everything that I'd accomplished was on that list. Wow. And that list was written before I even played rugby. Wow. And I was on the national team, and I went to New Zealand. I did everything. And so, when you have no vision, right, you will just end up nowhere. Wow. Yep. Confused, just kind of roaming aimlessly. Right? What is your vision in the kingdom? Now that's a higher goal, a higher vision for us. What is your vision in the kingdom? What do you want to do? When you find that out, then how are you going to get there? Right? Some of us want to go into ministry. Some of us want to go serve in Hope Worldwide. Mercy Worldwide. Sorry, wow. They're still around, but they're not doing much.
Don't have vision for mercy. Oh.
Yeah. So my point is, if you're not having a vision of what you want to do, where you want to go, what you want to serve, where you want to serve, you're not going to end up doing much in the service of the word.
Amen.
My goal when I became a disciple was to evangelize the South Pacific Islands. That was in 1994. I am halfway there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
From California to Hawaii, I'm in the middle of the Pacific.
Hey.
Right? I am doing it. I wanted to do it. Mary wanted to do it too, so we're here together. Amen. We're evangelizing the Pacific. Samoa, Tonga, Solomon Islands, all of those places are going to be evangelized.
Yeah.
And if I have to be called to go, then will have to go. Did I just say that?
It's on video.
Oh my God. Amen. You didn't hear that, kid. No, it's awesome, guys. Let's look at Daniel chapter 12 real quick. Let's go back there.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, bro, make sure to take that Mark now, bro.
bro, I messed up. Not tonight. I mean, Mary has to be involved in it too. If it was just me, I'm fine. You have to be involved in decision.
Decision making.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just want to read at Daniel's at the end of Daniel's life.
Come on, bro.
Daniel is talking to the angel, and the angel's talking to him and telling him, right here, Daniel chapter 12, verse 13. Here's the angel telling Daniel at the end of his life. Verse 13, it says, "As for you, go your way till the end. You will rest, and then at the end of the days, you will rise to receive your allotted inheritance." You see, at the end of the day, we will receive our allotted inheritance. And that is heaven. Right? So all the 80 years, 90 years he was in service, it came down to this. He says, you will receive it. And Daniel received it.
Yeah.
Right? So we have to never quit, never give up.
That's right.
Always persevere. Because why? Because we're doing it together.
Yeah.
We got to pray for each other. We have to plan from the end to the present.
Ooh.
Right? What's the end picture of our lives as disciples? Is it world evangelism, right? That's the end. But what are we doing in that? Are we geographical world sector leaders? Are we shepherds? Or what are we doing in that? Are we leading churches?
Yeah.
Are we doing church plantings? Are we training? Are we teachers? What is that end? We got to start planning from the end to the present. And then how do we get to that end? From where we are at today, tonight. Right? And when you can do that, you will end up somewhere. You will end up somewhere great. I'm just so proud of Hawaii and how Hawaii sends our disciples off into the world.
Yep.
Come on.
Zach, right? Zach,
Come on.
I saw him out there. He's just singing. He's just, I love,
Come on.
his song lead blows.
Yeah.
I know.
Right? His song lead is blowing. I'm like, I've never seen Zach lead like that before.
Yeah.
He's a different dude because he's grown. But he's
Yeah.
gone out there.
Yeah.
And some of you are not going to be here. You'll be out there somewhere.
Amen.
Look at Jay. He's over it. I don't know if he's homesick yet, but Jay's in Dubai. But Merrick just got sent off.
Come on, Jay.
RJ's in wherever he's at, Dubai. You have people everywhere. The Hawaii is making its mark in the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
So what mark are you going to make?
Whoa. Snap.
Yeah? Are you going to still be here 20 years from now? Maybe. But there's no guarantee we'll still be here, Mary and I and my children. There's no guarantee, and we have to realize that. Right? The end game is to evangelize the world. And have Mary share.
Just due to time, I'll just be very quick. But procrastination is a killer of excellence. And a lot of times we procrastinate so much, and we don't realize we're killing our excellence when we do that. Some of you guys heard my story. One sister asked me, why don't you procrastinate? Well, I used to procrastinate a lot. But I caused a massive accident due to the fact that I was procrastinating on an art project, and so I only got 2 to 3 hours of sleep. And I was driving teenagers home from a devotional. I safely got them to their homes out in Waianae. But on the way back, I caused a massive accident because I fell asleep on the road. There's 2 lessons to be learned there: not to procrastinate and don't burn the candle at both ends. I think as disciples, we think we're robots and we're machines, and we're not. We need more than 4 hours of sleep. I heard a sermon once, I think it was in 1994. This brother preached in a huge congregational service, and he preached about how prideful it is if you get more than 4 hours of sleep. Oh my goodness, I was livid. I was like, you don't put that out there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because then you got these fired up brothers or sisters who are like, yeah, 4 hours of sleep. Anything more than that is pride. And then they just end up burning the candle at both ends. And then the kingdom doesn't look that excellent.
Yep.
You know, because you end up procrastinating other areas.
Yep.
Other areas get the short end of the stick. And so you have to live a life of excellence with no procrastination. And there's a way to do that. It's just being very well planned out. And when God puts something in your heart, get it done. Don't wait. Don't be the what fish?
Wait and see.
Wait and see fish. Okay, don't be the wait and see fish. I would like to share with you one verse. It's in Ecclesiastes 7:8. This is what helped me to finish my master's degree. It actually took me 5 years rather than 2 years. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was traveling so much. When I finally turned in my thesis, my professors were like, oh, thank goodness. We're like, when is this woman going to graduate already? I'd done all the other requirements. I just simply needed to turn in my thesis. So I finally got it done. And actually, I was blown away with this. One of the professors on my committee was like, I want you to publish this. This information needs to get out there to help people on the Pacific Islands with their cultural identity. So my whole thesis is about cultural identity of New Zealand-born Samoans at the time. But this verse is what I chanted to help me. In Ecclesiastes 7, verse 8, in the NIV version, it says, the end of a matter is better than its beginning, and patience is better than pride. In the NLT version, which is the one that really got to me, finishing is better than starting. Patience is better than pride. So finishing what you start is more important than starting something at all. So that's the whole point about our finish line when we finally get to heaven, is we finish what we started, which is to be a disciple. And yeah, so that's all I have to say. And we're going to have a couple of things we're going to view right now. And I'm going to make it fast, a really brief activity, just because we ran long. But do you want to go ahead and introduce or...
Oh yeah, so this is the video about, some of you have seen it, about making your bed. This is the one, yeah. So it makes sense. Really listen to what he's got to say. We want to change the world for Christ.
Is it on? It is. Now.
Come on.
Basic SEAL training in Coronado, California. Basic SEAL training is 6 months of long, torturous runs in the soft sand, midnight swims in the cold water off San Diego, obstacle courses, unending calisthenics, days without sleep, and always being cold, wet, and miserable. It is 6 months of being constantly harassed by professionally trained warriors who seek to find the weak of mind and body and eliminate them from ever becoming a Navy SEAL. But the training also seeks to find those students who can lead in an environment of constant stress, chaos, failure, and hardships. To me, basic SEAL training was a lifetime of challenges crammed into 6 months. So here are the 10 lessons I learned from basic SEAL training that hopefully will be of value to you as you move forward in life. Every morning in SEAL training, my instructors, who at the time were all Vietnam veterans, would show up in my barracks room, and the first thing they'd do was inspect my bed. If you did it right, the corners would be square, the covers would be pulled tight, the pillow centered just under the headboard, and the extra blanket folded neatly at the foot of the rack. It was a simple task, mundane at best, but every morning we were required to make our bed to perfection. That seemed a little ridiculous at the time, particularly in light of the fact that we were aspiring to be real warriors, tough, battle-hardened SEALs. But the wisdom of this simple act has been proven to me many times over. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made. That you made. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better. So if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed.
Just really quickly, I wanted to give you an example that really helped me and during our academic excellence. Maybe I should put it.
Right here.
Do you mind holding it?
Yeah, I'll hold it right here. So
Sorry.
we'll have participation.
I want to show you about some of your guys' schedules. So let's do a campus student right now. Okay. Yeah, old-fashioned board here.
Amen.
Okay, how many, let's choose campus student. Someone raise their hands.
Come on, campus.
Your schedule. Okay, Richard. How many hours of sleep do you need?
Oh, come on.
Oh, be real.
8, okay?
That's right.
Okay, sleep.
Minimum.
How many units are you taking,
Somebody
or
else.
credits, excuse me?
12.
You're taking 12. So that means you're in school for 6 hours? 5?
Class, in class.
In class. Yeah, for a day. About how many hours is that? Starting at 8 until 2?
It depends, but one day would be like two hours.
Okay, and what is your rougher day?
2 hours.
So give them 4 hours of class
Okay, I'm
time.
gonna do 4 hours class. Okay, how many hours do you need for studying every day?
Every day, usually over the week, I like at least 20 hours.
20 hours, so 5 hours a day? 4 hours a day.
No, for 7 days.
Oh, by the end of the week?
3 hours.
So 3 hours, okay. Okay. How long does it take you to prepare? On average, like brush your teeth, take a shower, get your beautiful hair done.
4 minutes.
3 minutes?
30 minutes.
30 minutes?
30 minutes a day.
It's okay, bro.
30 minutes a day. 30 minutes a
That
day.
might be an art.
Okay,
30 minutes
I'm
a
gonna
day.
give you an hour.
Wow.
Hey.
So that's for everybody, right?
Yeah, okay, oh, this is just a campus student.
Yeah,
How much time do you need for traveling? An hour, okay. Commuting,
Yeah, so 2 hours.
okay.
So half hour.
How much time do you need for eating? An hour a day, okay.
Yeah, lunch.
Oh, just for
While you sleep, while you eat.
Okay. Is there anything else? So I'm giving you 8 hours of sleep, 4 hours, double the amount of class time that you need. 3 hours of study a day, 1 hour to prepare yourself and make yourself handsome. Commuting, eating, is there any other demands that we have as a campus student? This is, job.
Who does work?
None.
Do you work?
We don't need to include.
Okay, so let's just add this up right now. This is not with quiet time or anything like that. Let's just add this up. This is 12, 15, 16, 17, 18. So we have 18 hours, and let's see, has a 1 hour quiet time. Okay, it's hard to see. Okay, so that's 19 hours now. Let's say, okay, that's good. That's just you, right? So what are you doing with the extra 5 hours of your day?
Wow.
And that made me see, oh my goodness. And that's with you getting ready for an hour, like preening yourself and just like.
That's exactly how he does it.
Okay. That's with
yeah.
the extra class time.
Yeah.
You still have an extra 5 hours. Now, as a disciple, let's say you have, even if you do 1 hour, just do whatever. So miscellaneous. Okay, you're still at 20. Let's say you have a D time. So 2 hour D time.
2 hours.
That's a sister D
No,
time.
that's a day.
Yeah, for a guy that's
For
unusual.
every day? That's not every
And then
day.
let's say you have a 2 hour Bible study.
Holy moly.
Okay, now this is every
That's a sister Bible
day.
study. Thank
This
you.
is every day. If he has this schedule, he'll finally finish up the 24 hours. And yet, we never seem to have time for things. I mean, even if, let's say, he doesn't have a D time, he can use that 2 hours to, like, go exercise so that he can preen himself even more. And just, like, ball out. But can you see, like, the time allotted? Let's say we change it around. Let's say we take out the fact that he has only 2 hours of class. You know what I mean? That gives him an extra 2 hours over here. Over here. So what are you doing with your time is the thing that I want you to think through and figure out your schedule. Because sometimes I look at some people and you guys are so overwhelmed. And you're discipling like one woman, or maybe two women. When I was 25 years old, I was leading 3 Bible talks, 2 of which were married, and 1 was single. I had 7 discipling partners.
Come on.
And they were married women. Like, I was leading 5 times more than the average sister is here. And I wasn't in the ministry. And so you got to up your ante a little bit more. You know what I mean? It's a good, deep conviction to have about what you're wasting your time on. You watching things you shouldn't be watching, you know, getting extra snoozes that you don't need to have. So let's do the single schedule.
Oh, wow.
Let's do
So
it.
this is the single professional.
Okay.
Jamal and Mike.
Now this is of the exception, let's say for someone like Stacy who has a child. You know what I mean? This changes things. So so I don't want Stacy for you to look at this and go, oh my gosh, I'm scum, and when do I ever spend time with Zane? This doesn't necessarily apply all to her. Okay, so let's choose a single
Or
professional.
just the singles will answer the question.
Okay, how much sleep would you like?
Like
8 hours.
8 hours.
Pick on Mike.
Okay, let's
Single.
choose 7. Okay, so 7 hours of sleep. Okay, 1 hour QT. I bet you a lot of you guys aren't even doing an hour QT. You're probably doing around 30 minutes maybe. But,
Let's go then, sis. Let's do it.
how much time do you need to eat other than your lunch hour? Your lunch hours? My lunch hours were spent studying the Bible with people. When I was living in San Francisco, almost every doggone lunch hour I was studying the Bible. I don't care if I only did half a study with somebody. I would make sure it got it was fitted in. So let's say, how much time do you spend, Sarah, eating?
Aside
for the lunch
Yeah.
hour?
Like 30 minutes.
Okay, so we'll give you an hour eating. Okay. Commuting time is a little bit more for singles. Give me an average commuting time to your job.
There and back.
Oh, no, don't
No answer.
Okay, I'll do an hour.
Yeah.
Commuting.
Yeah. Commuting.
When I was a student, because I'd catch the bus to UH, my commute every day was a total of 3 to 4 hours. I hated it. But anyway, it drove me nuts. Talk about dead time. Okay, what else am I missing? Oh, prepping. Prepping yourself. An hour?
Yeah.
Do you spend that time doing brushing your teeth? Okay. All right, so an hour prepping.
Is that like going to bed and
Taking a bath, blow drying your hair, putting your makeup on, getting your nails done.
5. Oh, 10.
2 hours?
All day.
One, okay. What else? Work, oh hello. Okay, so work, let's say
8 hours.
about 8 hours, okay?
20 maybe in one day.
12 hours for Jane. Okay, anything else? Am I missing anything else? Okay, so let's
Exercise,
now
maybe.
exercise. Oh,
1
who
hour.
of you exercises every day for an hour? Well, I'm gonna put that in.
Oh, we're gonna put that in.
So I'm gonna put 1 hour of exercise. Okay, let's just say now this doesn't include D times or the Bible studies. Let's just add this up. So we have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 19, 20 hours. So that's 20 hours. So now you still have an extra 4 hours to have 1 D time and 1 Bible study.
Every
Can you imagine if all the singles had this schedule? What a cranking singles ministry. And you know what?
And then you get 2 hours left.
Oh yeah. Okay, so then you can evangelize for an hour every day.
Wow, every day.
Okay. No, anyway, so a lot of times when we curtail things by we would do things as we go. So in the campus ministry, the base of minimum of evangelism was 5 people a day, and we literally do like breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner. Right? That's 5 people. So as we're heading off to breakfast, or whatever we might do, we make sure we invite 1 person. And then as we had a snack, we'd invite 1 person. Then as we go to lunch, invite a person. Just on campus. As a single professional, you guys, it got to a point where our church was so huge that the base, it's sad, but it was 1 a day. And I would always call it take your 1 a day. And so I always made sure I evangelized with 1 person a day by midnight. That's just me being legalistic, but I was out there. And Roby would be like, Mary, when I was a nanny for her in San Francisco, she goes, where are you going? I said, I haven't evangelized yet. It's been such a busy day. but I'm going to go right now to 7-Eleven. She goes, okay, and what do you know? I'd be back, by midnight, but I'd always make sure I invite one person. That allowed me to be so fruitful. Just one a day, because you build up a follow-up list that's incredible, And there's people that, anyway, this gives you time to even follow up with people. Have a chat with a sister, see how she's doing. There's so much extra time in the day that we just waste dilly-dallying and staring at our ceiling, or being depressed, or being overwhelmed about something we haven't accomplished yet, or hasn't happened yet. We're just overwhelmed, and we're just, in a stalled car vehicle situation. So I just wanted to show this to you so you guys can figure out your schedules, because there's so much that God can utilize with your time if you maximize it the way you're supposed to. I have a really busy schedule, and most moms do. You know what I mean? And it was hard. I mean, can you imagine my life when To'a was 6, Meliani was 4, Maka was 2, and Mono was just born?
Wow.
It was intense, and we were leading a remnant church. And it was exhausting, and Joe was working full-time. I was starting to homeschool, and I have children with a lot of learning disabilities. So you can imagine now, my children are 15, 13, 11, and 9. I still have those learning disabilities. I have 4 children. I have a niece that now I'm taking care of. I have 3 sisters on the other side.
Woo!
I homeschool, but I homeschool at a level now where I teach 2 different classes, 2 different courses, between age ranges of 6 different grade levels. And I have to prep all this every day. And then Joe and I lead the West region, which is, albeit pretty small at this point, but that's what we're doing. It's an intense schedule that we have, and I have to be mega on it as the woman in my house, making sure that the tornado doesn't get completely out of control. Yeah. But guys, really utilize your times. I mean, this gives you time to even pursue a hobby. Yeah. For an hour or 2, you know what I mean? If you want to take up painting so you can de-stress from your D-time, you know what I mean? Just whatever, it allows you time. There's time that you can milk out there that'll really help you. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. Put this, food for thought. Think about your schedules and get yourselves organized and make your bed.
Make your bed.
Make
Amen.
your bed.
Thanks, guys.
Make that bed.
Make that bed. It'll be the chance, Thank you.